Well, hello again, my fellow Jeti users, and welcome to another of my series. This time it's going to be on programming a model right from the start, and we're going to use a very popular jet model, the CARF Eurosport. I've done 3 other videos about programming a model from scratch. There's one about a scale petrol-powered model, one about a fairly typical glider, and quite a few in a series about the Schweighofer kit of the Hanno-Pretner Curare, and those videos have proved very popular because people enjoyed seeing the entire process from start to finish. So it's time to do a jet, and there is a lot of interesting stuff in this jet. Anyway, let's take a look at the beast itself, if I can get the camera far enough back. Here it is. The CARF Eurosport, in my opinion, an absolutely outstanding model. I love flying this. If I was only allowed to keep one model, this would be it. I absolutely adore flying it. It is something else. And if you're wondering about the fantasy colour scheme, it's not. It's actually scale for a Eurofighter Typhoon of the British Royal Air Force. In 2015 was the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. And if you're not British, then you need to know that the Air War, the Battle of Britain, is one of the most defining moments in our modern history. So we all know about it. And it took place in 1940. And so 2015, the RAF, for its display Eurofighter Typhoon, painted one of its Typhoons in the markings of Flight Lieutenant James Nicholson, VC. He won the Victoria Cross, which is Britain's highest military honour for bravery. He was Fighter Command's only VC of the entire Second World War, strangely enough. And that was his little own personal badge, the Red Devil. And it was painted to represent the Hurricane that he flew in the Battle of Britain. So the green and brown scheme, his registration, GNA, and his little personal badge. Points to note of interest on this model. Well, it's not going to make any difference to us. It's got a JetCat 160 in it, but obviously it's a delta wing. Now, the CARF Eurosport comes as standard 1 elevon on each side, but it has a servo box built in as an option for you to separate it into 2 elevons. Now, I bought this model second hand. I did the paint scheme on it, but the model had already been built and flown, and the original owner had separated out into 2 elevons. So we've got that bit of interest there, not just elevons, but we've got 4 of them to program up. Of course, being based on the Eurofighter Typhoon, it's got 4 planes or canards. What else have we got? We have landing lights, which will not only work on a master switch, but I want them to switch off when I put the wheels up and come back on when I switch the wheels down. We've got reheat rings. God, the transmitter's complaining at me already. Reheat rings. I don't know if I can swing the camera around there and show you those. Yep. Yeah, my own homemade reheat rings, and they are brighter than any commercial unit. They're fantastic, and they run off the Zikoi reheat controller, so that's good. So we've got to deal with that. What else have we got? We've got inside here a Central Box 200, so we'll be programming that. We've got an M bar, which is the air pressure sensor, so we'll be doing warnings and automatic gear failsafe. And we've got an MUI 30, which is plugged into the turbine battery and into the fuel pump, so it can give us warnings of flame outs. It can give us low fuel warnings, low battery warnings, and such like. I think that should do it for the moment. So lots of interesting stuff to see in this model and get programmed up. Now, there's a few things I will have to do in going through this video which you wouldn't necessarily normally do, but I've been flying this model for years. I've got it set up exactly the way I like it. I'm not going to touch a thing. Therefore, we're going to have to do a few little kludges in this video where I wouldn't normally do it. But, things like we'll just set a few little sub-trims and bits and pieces where normally I would go in and adjust the clevises or linkages. And I know a few little travels that need to get set up. But we'll talk about those as we go past them, so you know why I'm doing the odd little thing that you don't need to do. Right, let's get this show on the road. I'll try and keep each video to about 10 to 15 minutes because I think we all lose a bit of concentration. I need another espresso between each video, or a chocolate hobnob, keeps my brain going. And so when we get, pardon me, when we get to the sort of 10 to 15 minute point, we'll find a natural break point and move on to another episode. I do apologize if there's a lot of background noise. There is some heavy rain showers passing through today, making a lot of noise on the roof of my workshop, but I think you'll be able to hear me well enough over them. So I think that's enough about that. Let's get on with it. We've wasted 6 minutes already, and you don't want me rattling on. So let's go in, and off we go. Model. It's a new model. Its name will be Eurosport. Okay, to that. Model type is aircraft. Yep. Now we want 4 ailerons. There. The only way to get 4 ailerons is to have a 2-flap 4 aileron wing. That's not a problem. We can delete the flap function and the flap servos. Oops, daisy. Oh, I should also mention this has a Bavarian Demon Cortex gyro in it, so we'll be setting the controls for the gyro. It's not the new Pro version, which fits between the satellites and the central box. It's the original version, which has fly leads coming out of the central box into the Cortex and then onto the servos. I'm not going to be going into the setting up of the Demon Cortex. That's a completely different issue. We're dealing here with just programming your radio. Okay, tail type will be none delta. Okie dokie. Don't worry that if you've never seen this before, Jeti, even though it says tail type is none, it still puts in a rudder for you. Okie doke. Down we come. There'll be 1 engine. Yes, no air brakes. 1 gear servo. And I don't use the gyro functions in these because they can be a bit messy. If you want to know about those gyro functions, I do have several videos in a series about how they work and how to set them up, so have a hunt through my YouTube channel for that. Okay, ailerons, rudder, throttle, flaps, we can delete that because we don't have any. And there we are, so there's the gear. And what else do we need? Right, well, we will need a canard or 4-plane. Quite how they got to be called canards in Britain anyway, I do not know. I think canard is the French for a duck, and I don't think ducks have 4 planes. There we go. And of course it will be on the same stick as the elevator. There we go. What else do we need? Oh, we need the steering. So plus to that. That's the nose wheel steering. Oops daisy. Okay, to that, and it will work on the same stick as the rudder. Okay, to that one. What else do we need? Oh, we need a lovely one, this, the reheat. Or perhaps in your country you call it afterburner. Same thing. So reheat, and it works on the throttle stick. That's pretty much the end of the programming for that, because the actual switch on point is handled by the Zikoi controller. There's a little button you press on that. So that sets the on-off point. And the Zikoi controller does a lovely flicker of the lights that light up as well. I have a feeling he doesn't make them anymore because the Chinese just ripped off his designs and undercut him, which is a shame because his reheat stuff was really nice and good. But there we go. Oh, what else do we need? Brakes, wheel brakes. Okay, and I like them on the side slider P6 for my left hand to operate. Okay, to that one. What else do we need? Yep, the Gyro Gain. I'll just call it Gain. We know that it's a gyro. Okay, to that. And we'll assign it initially to P8, the rotary knob. Okie doke. And we'll allow for it to go either way. So typical of third-party gyros, at the middle would be gyro off. Turn it one way, you'd get rate mode. Turn it the other way, you get heading hold mode. But we'll look at the various options for that later on. Okie dokie. What else do we need? Oh, yep, lights. That's the landing lights. In case you're interested, the landing lights I've got are staggeringly bright. They are from Unilight, Austria. They're not cheap, but my goodness, they work. They're the version that it's already inside its own reflector. It has quite a decent size rectangular aluminium backplate as a heat sink. Fortunately, the legs that came with this model when I bought it, they're sort of squared off front and rear, which give a nice square or flat bit for the lights to be glued to using the heat transfer glue that you can buy from Unilight, and screwed on as well, or taped on as well, I think. Anyway, say okay to that, and the lights will they're not actually going to work off a physical switch. I'm going to be using switch SH as my sort of master light on and off switch, but as I said, I want the wheels to switch them off as well when they come up. So I do know that the lights will be, when we get to it, be working on logic switch 3. So in many cases, of course, you wouldn't know until you build your logic switches which ones switch, but I've made a note of which ones we're going to do where, so I can just straight away assign it to logic switch 3, even though we haven't built it yet. And the gear, let's go back to it. Gear, okay, Jeti automatically assigns it to switch H. Normally I would run my gear in a straightforward model off switch B, but where I'm using an M bar, obviously, if I'm using it as a gear failsafe automatically, rather than just a warning of the low air pressure, then we need to use a logical switch, and in this case I am going to use logic switch 1. In case you're wondering what these are, why is that in a new model? It's because until we get to the end of the process and create model, it still thinks it's in the old model. Okay. So set that to that one. And I think that's all our functions set. So on we go. And here in the servo assignment. Now, I say, because I've got an already existing model that's all set up and I'm not going to change a thing about it, I'm not going to rewire it just for the purposes of this demonstration, I now need to check if everything is set out here the way it is in the model. So I should have throttle, AL1, AL2, flap 1, no. In case you're wondering why it's put flaps in when we removed the function, yeah, we removed the function, but right back in the basic setup, we had to choose a 2-flap model, so it's blooming well put the flap servos in for us as well. So that should be aileron 3 for me. And then coming down flat would be aileron 4 in this model. 6 is the lights in this model. Get there eventually. 7 is my canard. 8 is my gear. 9 is my steering. 10 is my reheat. 11 is my gyro. 12 is my brakes. And 13 is my rudder. Oops. 14 is empty and 15 is empty. Oops, daisy. Of course, there's 2 empty slots come up because we got rid of the 2 flap servos. And that should be, if I've got it right, gain brakes, steer reheat, canard gear, L4 lights, and then L3, L2, L1 and throttle. Good. See, you wouldn't normally do this, you would just leave it as it was, apart from removing the flap servos, of course, and maybe reassigning some things and then plug it into suit, but I'm just having to do it the other way around. Create and activate the model, yes. We'll say okay to that just for a moment. Pair the receivers now, no, because we'll do that later on. And there is the basic, very basic setup done. So I'll stop this video here and we'll come back in episode 2 for the next part.